Coming up, the Bills make a statement in the AFC and plenty of upsets all across the board in Week 6. This is Locked On Game to Game NFL.
Every game, every team, every angle. Locked On Game to Game, your team every day.
Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game NFL, local experts taking us from game to game through Week 6 of the NFL season. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. The Buffalo Bills came out on top in the latest installment featuring the AFC's two best teams. Locked On Chiefs goes over a back-and-forth matchup that we may well see again come playoff time.
In the marquee game of Week 6 in the NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs lost to the Buffalo Bills in what was a great fought game and one that is a preview of something to come. I'm Ryan Tracy from Locked On Chiefs, and this is the way that it goes sometimes. A lot of back and forth, better defensive play on the Kansas City Chiefs side than we expected. Maybe not what we expected from the Buffalo Bills in the end. What I had predicted to be a one-point game is a little bit farther apart than that. It all comes down to one of the cliches of NFL football. They turned over the ball too much and more so than the Bills did, and that's what leads to the ball game. Two inopportune interceptions from Patrick Mahomes couldn't balance out the one play that was ruled as a fumble from Josh Allen, and in the end, that proved to be the difference. There was a missed field goal as well. This could have been a one-point game in the opposite direction as well. When it comes down to it, these are the two best teams in the AFC, and they will meet again come January. You can hear all about it on Locked On Chiefs, your team every day.
The Bengals may have had a slow start to their season, but now they are back atop the division after they got a win yesterday in New Orleans. Locked On Bengals details how Cincy got things done.
The Cincinnati Bengals are once again tied with the Ravens atop the AFC North after a big win in New Orleans. I'm Jake Lisco from the Locked On Bengals podcast, and Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase got together back in Louisiana and decided we need to make plays to win this team the football game. Don't forget Trey Hendrickson, either the former Saint, getting in on some big plays late in the game to disrupt Andy Dalton in clutch spots to get the defense off the field and give Joe Burrow an opportunity to connect with Jamar Chase for the big game-winning touchdowns. It was a great game in general for the offense that needed to bounce back in a big way. And while the run D left something to be desired, they were banged up on the defensive line. They did a poor job of tackling for much of the game. They clutched up in the fourth quarter when it mattered, got off the field twice, got Andy Dalton and the Saints into a fourth and very long situation with the game on the line, and ultimately come down with a win. One of the big keys in this game, one, the offense really getting going. Another, the Saints didn't just need a field goal to win the game. And the way they managed the clock at the end of the game, I think, left something to be desired. But the Bengals, having lost all three of their games this year on walk-off field goals, put themselves in a position after overcoming a Trent Taylor fumble early in the game where the Saints needed a touchdown, and that ultimately made a big difference. For more on the Bengals and the post-game show, go find us at Locked On Bengals, where my co-host James Rapine and I will break down all the biggest stories and get you the takeaways.
Another heartbreaking week for Jaguars fans as the Colts pull off a last-second comeback win. Locked On Jags frustrated with another loss for Jacksonville.
The Jacksonville Jaguars can't walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. I'm Tony Wiggins with Locked On Jaguars. Here's my instant reaction of the loss to the Colts, 34-27. People wanted them to run the ball. They ran for over 200 yards. They wanted Trevor Lawrence to do his checkdowns and be more efficient. He only had 2 incompletions and completed 90% of his passes. Didn't work still, because last week the defense couldn't play any better than they did last week. Now today they seemingly forgot how to play defense while the offense was very, very efficient. This team just can't get right. They have now lost 3 straight games and have a tough slate coming up with the Giants this week. They got to figure it out, or it's going to be a long season.
Coming up, both New York teams pull off an upset. This is Locked On Game to Game NFL. Today's edition of Locked On Game to Game is brought to you by Athletic Greens. This is a product that I use literally every day. I started taking AG1 to help me with my immune system. It works with whatever diet that you're on, gluten-free, vegan, dairy-free. It's important to include a multivitamin in your diet. AG1 makes that super easy to do. And right now it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every single day. That's it. Super easy. No need for a million different pills and supplements as you try to look out for your own health. Now, to make it super easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NFL network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NFL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Welcome back to Locked On Game to Game NFL. I'm Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. The New York Jets have a statement win now on their record as they took down the Packers at Lambeau Stadium, shutting down Aaron Rodgers and the Pack offense pretty much completely. Locked On Jets goes over a momentous day for the Jets.
The New York Jets showed they are for real on Sunday. I'm John, the host of the Locked On Jets podcast, and the Jets defeated the Green Bay Packers 27-10 in Lambeau Field. They improved their record to 4-2 on the 2022 season, and they have their first 3-game winning streak since 2017. It was a dominant performance by the Jets defense. The unit, which was one of the league's worst a year ago, has made enormous strides this season. They completely stifled the Green Bay offense, holding the Packers to 10 points in this game. Aaron Rodgers was under constant duress by a ferocious Jets pass rush. The Jets completely controlled the line of scrimmage. Quinnen Williams was the biggest star. He had a pair of sacks, a forced fumble, a couple tackles for a loss, 3 quarterback hits, and a blocked field goal. The Jets succeeded in all 3 phases of this game. They blocked a field goal and blocked a punt. Their defense dominated, and they got a tremendous performance by Breece Hall, who ran for 116 yards. The Jets now look like they are going to be in the AFC playoff race. For more on the Jets, tune into the Locked On Jets podcast every Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Steelers had a long list of things that would need to happen for Pittsburgh to pull off the upset on Sunday, and they did just that. Here's more from Pittsburgh on the Steelers' surprising win.
I'm Chris Carter of the Locked On Steelers podcast, and the Steelers have just won 20-18 here at Acrisure Stadium. It was a true team win over Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Steelers held Tom Brady to just 1 touchdown in the game, and that's on 4 red zone trips. Truly a team effort with several defensive starters missing. No Ahkello Witherspoon, no Minkah Fitzpatrick, no Cam Sutton, no Levi Wallace, no TJ Watt, and still they found answers. And during the game, players like Larry Ogunjobi, Miles Jack all went down, and they still kept finding answers. Devin Bush with a crucial breakup on a 2-point conversion that kept the Steelers lead. But truly, the offense also deserves a lot of the credit. They had a lot of longer drives in this game. They were better on 3rd down in this game than the Buccaneers. Also, you had Mitch Trubisky coming in the second half, sticking with it, and Chase Claypool saying after the game, hey, we were so used to him from the time that we spent with him earlier this season that it was easier to get going. Chase Claypool catching the game-winning touchdown, and then in the final drive, converting multiple huge 3rd downs. A team effort from Chase Claypool, Mitch Trubisky, Najee Harris, Deontay Johnson, everybody across the board. They were even missing Pat Freiermuth, and the Steelers kept finding ways to fight back in this game. It's a huge win. Yes, the Steelers are just 2-4, and they have a long way to go before they're back in any sign of being a winning team. But they're only a game back in the division now, with the Ravens and the Browns both losing on Sunday. The Bengals win, so there's a lot of teams sitting just 1 game above them at 3-3. But it's really the chance for the Steelers to say, hey, let's stack some wins. You got the Dolphins coming up, and then the Eagles. Halfway through the gauntlet of the unwinnable time when everyone thought the Steelers were just going to be losing all their games, they've gotten a win, and they're only a game back in the AFC North. We'll have a full breakdown of everything else. I'm Chris Carter of the Locked On Steelers podcast. Stay tuned. Full episode coming out later tonight. We'll be back on your screens and in your ears very soon.
The Baltimore Ravens could not build off their momentum from last week and get a win on the road as they ran into the New York Giants. Locked On Ravens talks over the problems Baltimore had with Big Blue.
The Baltimore Ravens collapse again. This is Kevin Oestreicher, the host of Locked On Ravens, and the Ravens lose this time to the Giants in Week 6, 24-20, in a game that they were well on their way to winning. The Ravens convert a quarterback sneak on 3rd and 1 late in the fourth quarter, but it's negated by an illegal formation penalty. On the next play, there's a bad exchange between Tyler Linderbaum and Lamar Jackson. Jackson goes back to get the snap, but then throws an ill-advised pass on the run right into the arms of the Giants defender. The Giants get the ball deep in Baltimore territory. They score a touchdown on the legs of Saquon Barkley. Then the Ravens mounting their comeback. They get the ball stripped. Lamar Jackson fumbles, and the game effectively ends there. The Ravens had plenty of chances to win the game, but they go 1 of 3 in the red zone. They also had 10 penalties for 74 yards. Mark Andrews was the entire passing offense. He had 7 catches for 106 yards and a score. Kenyon Drake had the game of his life, too. He ran hard and ran well for the Ravens. Defensively, Baltimore did stop Saquon Barkley for the majority of the game. He only averaged 3.8 yards per carry, but the Ravens, again, the fourth quarter collapse is the story here. There's a lot of soul searching for this team to do. The Ravens, they could be a lot of records right now. You could argue they could be a lot of records, but the official record is 3-3, still technically tied for first in the AFC North, but they do technically have the lead there because of the tiebreaker with Cincinnati. But we will see how this team responds moving forward. They have a big Week 7 matchup with the Cleveland Browns coming to town, so the Ravens will have to respond by then and hopefully respond in a big way. For more on the Ravens and what's going on moving forward for this team, be sure to follow the Locked On Ravens podcast and subscribe on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
That's all for today on Locked On Game to Game NFL. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. Make sure you go and subscribe to Locked On NFL and your team's Locked On podcast on YouTube and wherever else you get your podcasts from. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Game to Game.